So to get started, we had number 19, South Florida, going on the road at North Texas. South Florida jumped up in the rankings again. They got back in the rankings last week, and they proved that they deserved it. They went on the road at the North Texas Mean Green, who was 5-0 at the time. They were a little shaky coming into this. They had some overtime games, some close calls, but still felt like this was a good challenge for South Florida to really prove themselves. And it was a little suspect early. It really looked like, ooh, I don't know if South Florida is really that top 25 team. And it was kind of worrisome for a minute there. But the way they turned it around, the way they just obliterated North Texas in the second half. I mean, Jack, they had 28 points in a quarter. South Florida ran them out of their own stadium and won 63-36 on the road, Jack.
I mean, USF really just flexed their muscles on this team and really proved that they are like
Mm-hmm.
one of the best teams in the country and one of the
Right.
best teams in the American. We'll see if they grab that championship spot. It's probably between them and
Mm-hmm.
Memphis, I think, are the two front runners for that. But
Right.
like they did, like as soon as the game started, on their first two drives, two straight fumbles and
Mm-hmm.
another
Right.
pick in that same first half. But the thing with North Texas is they just could not capitalize on those turnovers like South Florida did.
Right.
And this was a very ugly
Mm-hmm.
game, 8 turnovers total by both teams. So very
Right.
messy, very
Mm-hmm.
ugly. And North Texas had control of this game. It was 21-14, about to go into the
Mm-hmm.
second half, and then South Florida they went for it, and then it was at the end of this first half, and then they got the ball
Mm-hmm.
back, and then North Texas just could not keep the ball going, and they kept turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had a punt return, muff punt, and they just could not stop turning the
Right.
ball over. It was just very messy. And we did early this season say that they were kind of shaky, and they did have some rough games. So they were like undefeated, but we knew they were like gonna falter at
Mm-hmm.
some point. Yeah.
Right. And a team like South Florida that has kind of that playoff aspiration because a team from the group of five, if they win their conference, should make it. And South Florida has kind of been on that bubble with teams like Memphis and North Texas and Navy. UNLV's doing great in the Mountain West, things like that. So South Florida really can't slip up and they can't lose games like this. And since they came into their conference schedule, this was their first real challenge before they get to the huge matchup that is against Memphis. Be interesting to see if College Game Day goes to that one. It'll probably be the American Conference's only chance at Game Day. And even if like the American Championship ends up being two ranked teams, they're not going to go there over the Big Ten Championship or the SEC Championship. So when South Florida goes on the road at Memphis, that game is so huge, and that's probably Americans' only chance. So we'll see if that ends up happening. But honestly, South Florida really impressed me, but I'm still kind of worried about that first half, but North Texas is a fairly solid team. I mean, they hadn't lost before this. They were blowing out teams. They blew out Washington State, who we just saw played pretty good against Ole Miss on the road. So it's like we thought this was a fairly decent team, and they looked like it for a while. And we had said last week, and I had even said on my predictions where I'm just like, I like South Florida in this, but I'm just like, if they keep turning the ball over the way they are, if Byron Brown isn't taking care of it like he should be, if they keep playing like that, maybe North Texas gets a few bounces and they end up kind of making a move in this game. And that is what happened. But then North Texas just couldn't stop turning the ball over. It completely flipped. And Byron Brown had that interception early, but outside of that, he played a really clean game, even where he was the leading rusher again and 82 yards, 2 touchdowns, 245 and 3 touchdowns through the air. Like he's playing really great where it's like if they can weed out these turnovers and not dig themselves a hole later, they could really do great because I don't think that start that they had is going to fly against Memphis. I really don't. I didn't even think that type of start could fly against North Texas, but they proved that they're really great. But will it be good enough to beat Memphis if they continue to turn the ball over, Jack?
So I don't think it'll fly against a team like that. But yeah, Byron Brown was absolutely insane in this game. I mean, total touchdowns. He just
Mm-hmm.
continues to show that he's one of the best QBs in the country that can attack on both sides, rushing and passing. But
Right.
yeah, 580 yards total, the Bulls, and then 300 yards
Mm-hmm.
rushing. One of the best offenses this week. I think if you're saying who's the best offense, I would say it's between South Florida and Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a very important
Right.
game for North Texas. This is their best start since
Ridiculous.
1959.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Right.
was the first time their stadium even sold out. So it was
No
very
doubt. Mhm.
impressive this year so far.
Well,
And this was just an important game as their franchise. I mean, since like Mean Joe
yep.
Green went there so long ago.
Hmm.
But this was just, yeah, they needed to play better than this, especially in the second half. But yeah, we said they were fraudulent early in the year, but they could have had this one. There was definitely some chances that they could have seized.
Right.
So yeah, I think later in the year
Mhm.
it's
Right.
some tougher games, but this is really one they needed to
Right.
have for sure.
Right. I definitely agree. And I mean, North Texas, like they had a lot of bounces go their way. Like they were in this game and they were ahead. Like they had the lead for a while against a team like South Florida that has an SEC win. And for a group of five team, that is huge. And it's like if you look at like the total yards, like they weren't that far off from South Florida. The big difference is that South Florida capitalized on those turnovers and North Texas just continuously gave them short fields, so many turnovers, so a lot of like couple defensive touchdowns. It's just they really just kept handing this game away, and at a certain point, it's like, oh, now they're down by 7, now 14, and then it just kept getting bigger. Where all of a sudden they had scored so many points in the matter of minutes. Where it's like the fact that they collapsed that quickly was very concerning. But I mean, it shows South Florida and how disciplined they are and how they're able to overcome adversity. But it would be nice to see them clean up some of those turnovers. And when they play Memphis, I don't know if they're going to get away with some of those turnovers like they did against North Texas.